I'm here with Ty from Lophiile, I guess is the current name you're under right now, formerly known as Scout, and formerly a one part of Issues. So let's just start, I guess, from the beginning, man. You've been in music for a long time and wore many different hats in different acts and whatnot. I guess first question is, how did you get started within music?
How did I get started? So I guess I was playing in a lot of bands and stuff in high school and up in Washington and Seattle, and that's kind of how I got my feet wet, I guess, playing shows like everybody does, and then got into, I was into production at the same time and DJing, and I was DJing for rappers and other things, but then when I was in college, I met somebody who had ties at Atlantic in Hollywood, and he offered to get me an internship. And I guess that's when when I left Seattle to go down for the internship. That's kind of when the trajectory started. Started interning, then I worked there as an engineer. I engineered Tyler through some mutual friends that knew him. Tyler Carter, sorry if someone doesn't know. Ended up going on tour with him. That begat Issues. The rest is history, kind of. And
you went to a jazz college, right? A jazz music school college?
Yeah, it was an art school, and I took the jazz program, jazz composition. I wasn't really that sick at any one instrument, but I wanted to learn how to write it, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did.
And do you think that better equipped you, in general, just because jazz is probably one of the more musically complex genres you could possibly play?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it really helped me, honestly. Just in the style of stuff that I like to make, it's not necessary for everyone to go to jazz school, if you're not into that.
Yeah.
Or I know tons of sick producers that don't know anything about theory. But just for me and what I like to make and what music inspires me, I wanted to learn a lot about it, so that's what I went for.
How does a producer be good without theory? I feel that's a huge part of it. I've always thought, oh yeah, maybe going into music production, but I'm dude, I know, I took intro to music theory and that's it.
Yeah, some people, if you just do it, they can just kind of have the intuition and figure out what sounds good and what sounds wrong. The biggest example is Skrillex. That guy, he doesn't claim to know any theory, but he, can make the sickest. He can produce anything, and he's known for dubstep and stuff. But he did the whole all that Bieber stuff. He does a lot of hip hop stuff, and he's sick and he knows what he's doing. But I don't think he knows any theory, and he's one of the best producers in the world. So
yeah, and you toured with him for a bit, right? How did that go?
Yeah, I was working for him for a bit. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, to be honest. It was a lot of, obviously he's one of the biggest DJs in the world. So it's fly to Greece, then get in a private jet, play the set, get on a private jet to Rome and play another set, go to a movie set. I don't know, it was crazy. Yeah, and he's a cool dude. So yeah, it was a dope experience. It was not the right. Obviously the right fit for me because I was just kind of doing assistant stuff, but it was cool to start that relationship with him, and one thing leads to another, and now we're working on music together. So
oh really? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of people that would get a dope gig with Skrillex and pass it down, but
yeah, dude, honestly, a lot of people thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought I was crazy. And, it started to make me think, because, it's happened to me a couple times where
you've always been.
I've been in a position that looks dope from the outside, but it's just not I don't see it taking me to where I want to go. So I have to give it up. And it's hard for me. I don't take it lightly. Leaving Issues was really hard, but also I knew it was the right move. And I got that job at Atlantic, and that was my first job in the music industry. And I left that to tour with Tyler. That was a hard decision. Mm-hmm. But I like to try to make decisions and moves that maybe like will position me better to be where I like eventually want to end up, you know?
Yeah.
And I take like whatever I can from each experience. But I think that like, you know, if you just get too caught up on how it looks or like, you know, obviously it is sick, like everything that I've done in position that I've been in, but you know, like there's only so much time and like I need to like really focus and put time into like where I want to go, you know? So.
Yeah, and just to give like viewers some context, like what exactly would you, if someone were to ask you like, what do you do in the music industry, like, or where do you want to go? What exactly would you tell them?
Yeah, so my dream has always been to be like a producer, I guess. And you know, I've also loved, you know, playing in bands. You know, I grew up listening to like metal bands and loved being in metal bands and hardcore bands or whatever. But you know, and you know, I've like grown up DJing too, but the main 100% goal is producer. And like, you know, I was like in a band, which was sick, you know, but you know, it wasn't really like the right exact position that like I really wanted to be in. And, you know, I kind of saw, at least for what I want to do, a ceiling in like that type of music and like that band. So basically like I want to be like, you know, doing, you know, working with the biggest artists ever, like basically any artist that I would love to work with. And you know, that's anybody from like Drake to like Bryson or whatever. But yeah, it's just, it's hard to see myself getting there, like playing Warped Tour, like for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
There's no disrespect to anybody that does that, but you know what I'm saying? I'm 27 now, so it's like, I gotta like kick it into gear.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And, you know, I feel like you've always had bigger goals and aspirations than some people. I think some people get so complacent in Warped Tour that like, hey, it's not bad playing to a couple thousand kids or whatever. And they're just kind of like, this is sick. And then they just kind of are so clouded by that they don't look at the future. Like, is my band going to be big in 5 years?
Exactly. And I don't like, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And like that, like part of me wanted to do that too. And to be honest, like if I ended up like for whatever reason playing drums in Issues, I'd probably still be in Issues. I probably wouldn't have left to like do this, because you know it is fun. Like it's so much fun to like play that world and be in those types of bands and stuff. And like you know if that's your passion, like it doesn't matter if you know it's gonna like be your 401k or whatever. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. But I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's going to like pay your retirement, you know, just because it's like your passion. But I don't know. I just, for me personally, I just see myself like just wanting, like ever since I was a kid to, you know, be successful in the world of production and beat making and stuff. So
yeah. And I think it's so like, you know, take kids like nowadays that are on YouTube, like kids that are younger, like, you know, even like 7, 8, 9, 10. They're probably like, I wouldn't say that's a ridiculous goal to have to do that now because YouTube is such a big deal. But like back when you were a kid, you know, both you and I are around the same age. I feel like that was crazy that like you were scratching at like the age of like what, 9?
Yeah.
Like,
so, well, I think I got my turntable at 11.
11? Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, what went through your mind at such a young age when like no one, like, did you have any friends that scratched? Did you have, yeah, exactly.
I met like one person that scratched like every 5 years or something like
That's
that.
crazy.
And like no one, you know, I mean, I got into it like right as it was like dying, like, cause it kind of blew up like early 2000s. I guess, yeah, or like late 90s, I guess. And then by 2002, it was kind of like dead. And that's kind of when I was like really into it. So it wasn't really common. It was that and beat making. Like nowadays, you know, everybody's, you know, getting Ableton, there's YouTube tutorials and stuff, but nobody really like was into production either. It was just random, like these random things that I got into for whatever reason, and like kind of it just stuck with me. It was weird.
Yeah, I feel like we're on this weird cusp, like this age, like anywhere from like probably like 24 to like 29. Like we're in this weird age where like we weren't born with like social media and whatnot, but we had to adapt.
Yeah.
But like it almost is an advantage and a disadvantage because like yeah, like we could have done more younger, but at the same time, we're the first people to be able to be like, yo, we know social media, we know, Ableton, we know blah, blah, blah. And like, we could learn it really quickly and get these jobs that.
Right. I always like try to think like, cause sometimes it's like, dang, I've been working at this a long time, and, some of these kids like jump on and like within a few years, they're really dope and like sick. And I'm always like, dang, like, why did it take me so long? But I guess the thing that like helps me sleep at night is just the fact that I have been doing it so long and started so young. I guess my advantage is versatility. Like,
for sure.
I feel like I can like tackle any style of music and any like baby of two music genres. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like I feel like that's what I get out of like, I guess being our generation and like being around for a little bit longer and soaking up a little bit more music from like back then and now. I feel like I have just like a wider palette of like skills, I guess.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about that as well. So I don't know what pattern you expected to go into after Issues, but I don't think winning a remix competition and getting signed by Zedd was like necessarily in the books for you. Like, I don't know if you thought that was gonna all happen so quickly. What do you think that like your versatility was like gonna hinder you in this industry, or do you think it was gonna help you immensely? Like, do you think that paid off with that competition?
Well, I think, yeah. So I think it helps me in some ways. The remix that I did was pretty different, I guess, from most of the remixes, and I guess that's what Zedd liked. And in that way, it keeps me unique, and it helps me stand out. But then also, it is hard because a lot of times, people get popular and known and respected and, kind of start their careers off of like a very specific sound, I guess. And I guess that's been something that's hard for me because I'm so eclectic in like what I like that like my sound changes a lot. And like, you listen to one thing that I've done, it's like pretty different to another thing. I mean, there's obviously like lines that tie them together, things that I try to do in everything, like with the musicality and chords and, groove and stuff like that. But, what I'm saying? It's not like a Kygo situation where it's like you turn on a Kygo song, it's a Kygo song for sure. Yeah. And that I think like really helps people progress nowadays in their careers. And I guess it's something that, I've tried to develop as an artist. It's just like a little bit more of like a consistent sound in that aspect. But at the same time, it's a battle. It's always a battle because I don't want to like just put out the same thing. I try to stay unique. So I guess, still tapping into all those like weird influences and versatile things that I've like developed over the years. So I don't know. I guess the correct answer is, what I'm trying to say is I have no clue, man.
That's no worries, dude. So with you having a twin brother, Sky, and he's also very intellectual with music and just a smart guy in general. Do you think you guys ever like bounce ideas off each other and kind of help each other grow in the music world?
Yeah, I think Sky is one of my most important collaborators and opinions, especially on the stuff that I do. Just because I know he's gonna be honest, because like I love my homies, but a lot of times they just like love everything, which is sick. It keeps me hyped. But Sky will really like give me something constructive, and I just respect his opinion. And we've worked on like so much music together, so we just kind of like know. We kind of have like an aligned goal, and I think that's like really important. With all the issue stuff, we've also produced stuff together. We did this song with Goldlink and Van Jess this last year that we produced together, and like, yeah, I just want to keep it going. I'd love to do like more with him, and like he wants to get more into the writing, so I'd love to like get that really popping. But yeah, Sky's definitely like super important in at least my musical life.
Yeah. Even going back to the Issues EP, he wasn't even in the band at that point, but how did he help out with you during the EP process, or was he just kind of coming in to track what you had already put in for bass, like midis or whatever?
Yeah, well, basically, the EP was pretty much written by the time he came in, but the fact that he did come in at all and learn those bass parts in like a day, struggled, but he learned them in a day and like tracked them in 2 days, you know, and added his own thing. Like, it was sick, and that's like the reason like he eventually got into the band. Was just how much he killed it. But when it really started happening, like the collaboration was the self-titled, you know, Life of a Nine is like pretty much all Sky's song. Like he wrote that. And before like Issues, he was you know, doing like mainly just like black metal, his like black metal band, and you know, had played in some like he like lived here for a while and like played in like this like death metal band. And then it was like coming to Issues. It's like, okay, well, this is a little bit more metalcore and like melodic. He like kind of adapted and then started writing. And then on Headspace, it was like me, AJ, Sky were like the three of us were really collaborating on everything, like musically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And going back to like kind of the origins of how that all started. So just like maybe give fans some context. You weren't even supposed to be in the band as well when you were writing the EP, correct?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. So basically how it happened was I was on tour with Tyler when he was touring with Go Radio just as like a solo act. I was DJing for him. And somewhere along the line, you know, he like just decided that he wanted to do a new band. Like he wasn't really feeling the solo thing yet. I mean, not like he is now. So basically, within that time frame, you know, he started getting demos from I don't know who, and I'm sorry, I don't know who was sending him demos, but they were like not the one. They were like pretty generic and like whack. And I was just telling him, I just told him, I was like, you know, I was like, man, if you're gonna start a new band, like you already have fans, like if you're starting a new band, it needs to be like really good, man. Just like trying to be like a homie to him. And, you know, he was just like, I was still like pretty green. That was my first tour. And like, you know, he was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, yeah, but what do you like? These are the demos I got like to work with. So, but I said, well, I mean, I could try something. I know some guitar players at home. We could try writing some stuff and just like send it to you. And I was like, honestly, just trying to write and like get, you know, royalties or whatever. And and so I came home and wrote the Boyfriend cover with Kevin Arrieta, AJ Rabolo. I had met AJ for the first time like right before this.
Yeah, you knew Kevin before that, right?
I knew Kevin for like a year, maybe over. Kevin, Cristobal, and AJ, basically the PHC.
Yeah.
We wrote that and sent it to Tyler, and he was just like, oh, this is perfect. And just used it verbatim. And I thought he was going to use different parts. But yeah, and then they tracked it with some like whack-ass guitar player. I don't know who, somebody Tyler like hired to like be in the band, and they like changed the riffs and made it like so much worse. And I don't even think he tracked it. I think Andrew Wade had to track it. And they tracked it so wrong, and it just like was like soul crushing because I was like, AJ played this perfectly and you guys had like some like pretty boy like track it wrong. I don't know. It was kind of soul crushing. But after that, Tyler was like, well, let me come out to California so we can write some more stuff, like some original stuff. Because it's funny, the first thing Issues ever wrote was the Boyfriend cover. But then, then like he came through and we basically wrote like 90% of the EP in one night. Like it was like, he was there for a day and we went into my garage, or the garage at the house I was staying at. It was like full of crap and then like my little desk on the side. And we wrote like the EP. We like went in there at like noon and left at like 10 in the morning.
Damn.
Yeah, it was crazy. But we wrote, what's that song? Her Monologue, King of Amarillo, and some other stuff.
Worst of Them.
We didn't write Worst of Them in there because that one was already a Tyler song that we just turned into an Issue song.
Okay.
But yeah, we wrote a bunch. But anyways, so at this point, I was still not trying to be in the band.
Yeah.
Somehow finessed AJ into the band. like finally convinced Tyler to stop messing with these other guitar players that couldn't play what AJ was writing and just get AJ in the band. And then they went on tour with Attila. And I stayed home. And then, I think I remember. Oh yeah, like I wanted new. I like needed to get new monitors, so I took my monitors and just wrote Black Diamonds on them, Scout, and put them on Twitter. And I was like, "Yo, I'm trying to sell these monitors. Like, if anybody wants to buy them." And they sold in 2 minutes. And I was like, there was a lot of heat behind this project. Maybe I should join this.
Yeah.
I was like, that was when I was like, dang, I don't know. It was the first thing I ever did that had any fan. You know what I'm saying? Because anything up to that point was just either local bands, and we didn't have nothing. I mean, I was in a band called Memoria Bruted that was, kind of popping in the deathcore scene, local deathcore scene. We had downloads and stuff or whatever, but it wasn't nothing real crazy. But then, after that, I was basically just that monitor thing. I was like, dang, I literally cultivated a little tiny fan base just writing this stuff. So
in one night.
Yeah, so maybe I should just give it a shot and then join the band as the DJ. Got my brother after a couple things. Got my brother to join the band, and we started touring. And yeah, I mean, I had refused the DJ spot many times because I just did not want to be a DJ keyboard player in a band at all. And Case was drumming. And
shout out.
Yeah. And I was just not interested. But then after that I was like, well, whatever. Let me suck it up. And then eventually after 3 years I was like, oh yeah, I hate this.
I forgot I hate this.
Yeah. So yeah, it was I never felt 100% stoked on my position. But obviously touring and putting out albums and meeting people, and that was all great. But my position in the band was always the DJ guy. I was just nah, I was not with it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was the life story about it.
And in general, you've always been, because I don't know if people know that you in your death metal band AMB, you played drums, and you've been a drummer mostly first and foremost before any other for keyboards or whatever you were more interested.
I won't say that I'm the best drummer or that's even my best instrument. I just enjoy it. I feel anyone that joins a band, a band makes you better. Every time I've ever joined a band, it's made me better. And if I had the opportunity to do that in Issues and grow as a drummer and stuff, I would have been hyped probably. But, it just didn't work out because, Case was the first drummer, and then we met Josh. And Josh is one of the best drummers I've ever met in my entire life. Yeah. So it didn't it just made sense for the band and the music to have him. But yeah. But now, yeah, exactly. So now, after I left the band, I was like, I'm not joining any band as anything other than a drummer. If I do join a band, which I just did coincidentally, but but yeah. Anyways.
Well, so how did scratching kind of evolve into music production? At what age did you first get a computer or start YouTubing production stuff? How did that all happen?
Well, yeah. So YouTube wasn't around yet, but I got into scratching first. I guess drumming first, and then I got into scratching. And then my dad just brought. Guitar Center was having this promo, whereas if you bought this program called Acid, it's a music production program. It was if you bought the cheap version, which was $50, it had a $50 rebate, so it's essentially free. Okay. So my dad got it for me and my brother. He didn't even know what it was, and I just started putting loops on it, and made a little song, and I was like, what? I don't know. It just totally blew my mind. And then
what age was that at? Like,
so I wasn't living in Tacoma yet, so I was still in Lake Stevens, Washington. So, man, I must have been 13, 12.
Like barely into high school or late middle school.
Yeah, late middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really into like underground hip hop. That was like my first the first genre that I really like gravitated towards as like my own like interest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all like sample based hip hop, like, you know, finding old records and like getting drum samples and like chopping it up. And, you know, I was already DJing, so I had like records and knew how to like work a turntable.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started like chopping up breaks and like old samples, just made hella like old school hip hop beats. So that's how I like started like doing the production thing. And then when I moved to Tacoma, you know, I just kept doing that. I like joined like this hip hop group and was learning. And when I worked at Guitar, I like worked at Guitar Center in high school and like learned. I didn't know what MIDI was until that point, and like learned how to do MIDI. But nothing really like clicked or like I didn't really get like good at producing till I moved to LA. Like when I moved to LA is when I realized like, or when I was like interning and watching like people who do this like for a living, like I like realized the level, and that's when I was like, dang, I need to step it up.
Yeah. So when you come to LA, you come for this internship. So what were the stages? How did you meet like the PHC dudes from moving down from Washington?
So basically I moved down with my brother with like $400 in my pocket. We slept on my friend's couch for like a month. Shout out Ryan, thank you. And then we found this like sublet USC place and lived with these USC students. You know, then my brother moved back up to Seattle after the summer, you know, while I was interning still. And then I had to get out of the sublet. But basically, so when I was there, like I was really into like metal and drumming at the time. So I like posted an ad on Craigslist. I was just like, you know, I'm a drummer. And at that time, I was like so not into like singing. Like I hated any band that like sang. Like as far as metal, I was just like not with it. Like I only liked like Impending Doom and like, you know, Acacia Strain and stuff. And you know, thought that was
Amir.
Amir was like my absolute shit. And then so I basically posted an ad, said, "Yo, I like drumming. I want to be in a band. If you sing, do not reply to this." And I got like 10 replies, and all of them sang. All of them.
Really?
Like, yeah, they were just like didn't even read it. They just like saw the words "double kick" and were like, "Yo."
Check out my metalcore band.
Yeah, exactly. And I just was not into it. But this one kid named Danny, I swear to God, it's the only time he's ever been on Craigslist. He replied to me and he's like, "Yo, check our band out." And it was Memoria Bruted, and it was like the old like demos. And I was like, "Yo, this is sick." It's like kind of Acacia Strain, Meshuggah influenced. Even though I didn't really know too much of Meshuggah back then, but I just liked how groovy it was. And then like started jamming with him, joined the band. He was super young at the time. It was kind of on the borderline creepy because I was 20 and he was like 15 or 14. But he was sick. Him and this guy Axel. Anyways, I was just jamming at his house, and his sister was away at college, so they had a spare room. And his mom eventually like offered me like, "Yo, like if you need a place to stay, like you can rent this room out."
Awesome.
And so like that was in Pasadena, and that's when I met like everybody. I met like Chris Ball and Kevin and all the PHC, I guess. Seth. Yep.
Crazy.
Eventually, and I lived there for like 2 years.
Wow. So I remember someone telling me, gosh, I can't remember. I think it was Case. He was telling me like, yeah, like, you know, Ty's done so much cool stuff with music production. You know, like he's been in rooms with like Macklemore and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he's like listing off all these celebrities. And then he's like, but I remember Ty saying the one person he was starstruck by was Frankie from Amir.
Yeah, dude, they ate that up, dude. They ate that up. Because when I met Tyler and Case, you know, I was engineering and I had like a Flowrider credit. Like I had like, done, you know, just assistant engineering and engineering for like celebrities, and it was sick. But I was the whole time I was just really into like metalcore bands. So,
Yeah.
So when I was on tour with Tyler, we played South by So What, and it was like the bill was just like all like heavy
Stacked.
Yeah, so it was just like, you know, the after parties, you know, some people would come up to Tyler and be like, "Oh, what you doing now?" And it was like, "Oh crap, that's what's it called from, you know, whatever deathcore band that I love," and you know, that's when I was like really like shook, and they just thought that was so funny because they're like, "Didn't you just like record B.O.B.?" And we're just like, "Yeah, kind of."
Yeah, and even recently you said that you got to like engineer with Kendrick, right? You said he just randomly dropped by while you were in London or something?
Yeah, I had like a little listening session with him. I like played like some stuff that I was working on with Mos Kenna. It was me, Marco Bernardis, who I work with in London like every time I go, and who's in Radiant Children with me. And then this guy, Mos Kenna, who we were working with for a while. But yeah, we just like rolled to the studio and we like covered one of Kendrick's songs, and he heard it, and like, you know, we got in contact, or he got in contact, or whatever, and then like, yeah, it was crazy. Honestly, I was hyped. It was like, "Yo, Kendrick's at the studio, and he says like, you guys come down and like meet him and like play some stuff," and we just like got in the Uber, and, like, and like just
That's
like
crazy.
played some stuff, and yeah, he was really cool, and he like took some music, and yeah, I mean, until we meet again, I guess. But.
As for hip hop artists now, would you say he's like one of the top hip hop artists that you respect, or would you say like, I mean, I know Denzel Curry, you're fond of him, but who else?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely Kendrick is like obviously the GOAT. But I guess we're gonna talk about preference. Like, even though how he's like corny as hell, I love Drake.
Same.
I love like I always loved like how he like always starts a trend, and like how like airtight his music is. Whereas like, you know, you listen to a lot of stuff like Future, I love it, but it seems like sloppy to me. It seems like kind of like he just got in the booth and he was just like, you know, like mumbling and like trying some stuff, and they go win a Grammy. All right, that's the hook. And it's like, you know, I mean, that's fine, and that's like dope to turn up to, but you know, I liked how thought out like Drake's music seems to sound. So I really like him, even though he's not like the craziest rapper. I think J. Cole's awesome. I know like Twitter hates him now for some reason.
Yeah, why is that?
I have no idea. I just think it's like just a joke at this point. Denzel Curry, I love. And like, I really love, I've been listening to this guy, Lonnie X, a lot. He's really sick. But yeah, it's hard to think like when I'm on the spot.
Yeah.
What kind of hip hop now I listen to.
Well, what about so in terms of Drake? I know we've talked about 40 a lot, his producer. What do you think he's doing that? Because obviously he has a huge part, you know, equal parts with the success of Drake. What do you think he does that's like mind-boggling or mind?
40.
Yeah, like 40. What do you think?
I think well 40 really curated like that whole sound, like the like emotional like sad boy like hip hop thing.
Yeah.
Toronto sound, which is sick. And I think I think what 40 and Drake are good at, I mean, I've never met either of them, so, you know, I'm just speculating here, but what it seems like from the outside looking in, they're good at like the whole like curation side, like the like they like if they're working with somebody else, they like make sure they fit the vibe. They have these crazy ideas, like, you know what I'm saying, like that one dance sample, and like the fact that Drake even did like a dance hall song at the time that he did it, like all that just seems like really like forward thinking to me, and I think that's what 40 and Drake are really good at. They always seem like they know where the next wave is, and they go, and you know, some people give Drake shit for that because they say he's just like stealing stuff, but you know, I see it differently. I think he's like putting like sound, like the sound of a certain place or someone on. I think that's really dope.
Yeah, no matter what, someone's gonna critique something. You know, it's like it's a lose-lose situation essentially. Like if you do something, it's like, oh, you're appropriating it. It's like, well, what if you're just trying to like give homage to it? You know? Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's how I take it. I take it as homage in that situation. You know, Drake and 40. It seems like. Obviously, they're not perfect. I've heard of like some sketchy stuff going on, like with the whole like cha-cha thing or whatever. But yeah, that aside, like I think the music is awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to let's talk about a little bit about let's talk about the EP a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. For incorporating two genres, like we were talking about that earlier, how do you think that, looking back on that EP, what do you think you did right, and what do you look at as like corny and like kick myself in the face for incorporating that into the EP?
On Black Diamonds?
And Black Diamonds, yeah, because it was so forward thinking for that genre at the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I guess I'll start with the stuff I didn't like, so I can like bring myself back up.
Yeah, bad news first.
So I was like really into dubstep at the time and made that intro like as like my own song. And Tyler it told me to like, he's the one that had the idea to use it as the intro for the EP. And I mean, it's cool. I mean, people like it. I guess I can't say I regret it because people do like it, but I just listen to it now. I'm just like, ugh, why did we ever use that? It just sounds so stupid, like with the type of music we did. Also, I mean, it's no secret that none of us really like Love Sex Riot's lyrics because we wrote that and it was so heavy and dope. And then we got those lyrics and it was just like, I don't know. The reason I didn't fight really that much is because I wasn't in the band. I was just like, whatever. You're all the ones that are going to have
fun,
to,
suckers.
Y'all the ones that are going to have to go represent this weird ass song. So I wish I gave a fight for that. But at the same time, I can't say I regret it because there's people that love that song. And, that's dope. So it's out there. It's done. And like some of the breakdowns and stuff are like really like ridiculous and stuff, but I don't regret that at all because like at the time, like that's what was really cool. And obviously it sounds dated now, but at the time it was like, I mean, I just remember like kids telling me that like, oh, we were really, really heavy stuff and we didn't like really think like, oh, this type of thing could be cool. And then we heard like the heavy parts and we're like, oh, you guys, and that like made me feel cool because like I like, grew up loving the heavy stuff. So I think that was cool. And other things that I think we did right, I think at that time it was just like way more carefree, and that's what I like miss because it was like nothing to lose. Like that was our first thing, so it was just kind of like we were just having fun writing music, and then like after a while, once you start to make fans and people like are entitled and like expect things from you and like want certain things and try to tell you how to make your music and whatever, you just start feeling the pressure and like you start like writing differently and like you want stuff to be to top your old stuff, which isn't natural, but and that's just a natural thing you just gotta like get over and like deal with as you like progress as a band. But it is just fun to go back and like think of the mindset of like writing like the EP or even like the self-titled. It was just like, oh, what if we did this and we could just do this and whatever. And some of it came out really bad and it was like cringy, but we didn't care because we were just trying a bunch of stuff. And now I think we're just so scared of anything like coming out bad that it's like, I don't know, sometimes can hinder the creative process if you let it. But
yeah. Well, I do think you guys did a very good job at making the scene heavier in general, like the Warped Tour, because I know that, like, for me, myself, like, dude, just, like, following, like, you and AJ on Twitter, like, I found out a lot of bands. Like, I remember one time you were like, dude, it's crazy. Like, your drum cams, like, is basically my music library. Like, I love your channel. And I was like, basically because you and AJ put me on to a lot of that music. Like, I didn't know about 100th until you guys talked about it, Gideon, Counterparts, like bands like that. I heard about through you guys. And so like I, obviously gained a heavier palette through that. So I think you guys definitely did push that. And like even going to issue shows, like, you'd be like, man, I don't know if I'm going to run into Scene Girls or if I'm going to run into the, PHC guys and whoever the hell they bring, So I think you guys did a very good job at that.
Well, that gets me stoked because those are the bands that really influenced us. Like, I remember like the Villains era and like Barrier and all of that, like Chicago stuff was so cool. And I don't know, me and AJ just always wished that we were like in a band like that. And I but I'd love to do the Issues thing. So it was just like we channeled it. When it was time to get heavy, we would channel that stuff as much as we could because like that's where the real heavy stuff is. Not like really, like you can't really regurgitate what's already in like our scene and like do that and it still be heavy. You have to like pull from like the bands that are actually doing the heavy stuff like right. So it gets me stoked that like, we could like show some people what we really liked, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I'm not the only one, of course. Like, I'm sure there are tons of other kids that did the same as I did, and like we're like, well, who the hell's Gideon? Well, I'm gonna check them out. Oh man, they're actually sick. Like,
yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
So in regards to the heavier stuff and whatnot, what are some heavy bands that you were like kind of also like starstruck on? Like who are some like hardcore bands, I guess is a better question, that you were like hearing stuff like, oh dude, this dude from Issues is like fucking with us, that's so tight. Like who are some dudes that you met after like the fact, you know, that you were in Issues?
You mean like people that I met?
People that you met while you were like, you know, after the fact that you're like someone of status in Issues and you're like shouting them out on Twitter and they're like,
and they were stoked?
Yeah, and they're stoked. Like you're like, whoa, like this is tight.
Trying to think, because not everybody's stoked. Like some people just thought we were just like lame and gay or whatever. And like, you know, we're just like thought we were like shouting them out for clout or whatever. Which I get, like, you know, obviously like that music, you know, doesn't do well with posers, I guess. So
yeah,
you know, the DJ from Issues like shouting a heavy band out kind of looks like a poser. But I think a couple bands, Bermuda was like kind of stoked because we had done an interview and we were talking about how much we were listening to their record, and they were kind of stoked, which was sick. I remember when we met the Knocked Loose guys, we were all equally stoked that we liked each other's bands.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because they liked our band and we were stoked, and we liked their band and they were stoked, I think. And then yeah, we just like really gone along really well. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. It was tough for me because I wanted to take all these bands out on tour, and I got a lot of pushback from like the booking and like Tyler, you know, and Michael. They didn't really get like that stuff because they didn't come from that.
Yeah,
you know, they were into Path Less Traveled and like that kind of stuff, which is fine, but that was just like not my shit.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it. Equally, that I didn't get like what they liked.
True.
I would try and stuff, but like, you know, we just had different palettes. So it was hard for me because like I was shouting out all these bands and, you know, telling them they were sick, but then I wasn't taking them on tour. And it wasn't because of me, but like I just wasn't able to. So sometimes it felt a little like hard to like be exactly real. But anytime we did have a chance, we would take it. Like I remember we played in Orlando and we had a Dahlia open.
Yeah, a Dahlia.
And
so sick.
Yeah, that was like that like got me stoked that I could like actually put some people on. Because if it was my way, like I'd put all these bands on like that like I thought were sick. Take them on tour and like give them the stage and like. But you know, when it's like you trying to tell that to like whatever booking agent, they're like, well, this scene band is like really getting a lot of looks from AP. This would be a better. It's just like, oh, dude, miss me with that shit. I mean, that among many other reasons is like the reason I like got out of the band.
Yeah.
But anyways,
the corporate monster behind it, I'm sure. The suits.
Yeah, the suits, man. I don't do well with suits, man. I'm such a little brat with that. I don't do well with suits.
Which is ironic because now you're like of higher suit status now than Issues is.
But dude, it's funny because like the suits in my life now don't act like suits. Like
that's awesome.
I feel bad even calling them suits because they're so about the creative, and that's what I like.
That's tight.
And like just like the realness, and like, you know, if I want to like put somebody on that, I mean, I don't got nobody put on because I'm still like trying to like make a name for myself, but like if I want to like mess with somebody who I think is cool, even if they've got like no, you know, followers or ticket sales, like they're down with it, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I need. So
yeah, I feel like almost some of the like corporate people in like the Warped Tour scene, like they're almost faking it and like they don't understand the creative aspect and they let that go by the wayside because they're trying to like put this like image that they think, you know, like, this is what the music industry, like, I don't know, a lot of the people that I've met that are like bigwigs, you know, I'm just like kind of like, do you even know what you're doing? It's kind of weird. And I'm just like, I feel like I could do a better job if like given the like right lingo or whatever. But anyways, that point aside, what are some heavy bands that you think kind of push the boundaries before Issues? Like, I don't know. I'd say Volumes is like a good example. But who are some other bands that you think were like pushing that boundary for heavy music?
So Volumes was really sick just because they were so creative and like heavy and like groovy and stuff. I really think Gideon was dope because they're the first band that I heard that had so much hardcore influence, but like still had like the groove with it. They had like the beatdown parts and the groove parts that were sick. That was just a sick mix to me. One of my favorite albums, anybody that knows me knows one of my favorite albums is Pale Horse by Legend. I always thought that album was so ahead of its time because I could just hear first of all, it was raw and pure to me. It wasn't really like, it didn't have any like dubstep breaks or like, you know what I'm saying, like weird crap. But it was like good writing and like just heavy, groovy. And I keep saying groovy. Obviously, that's a preference. Some people don't like that at all. But that I've always just thought groove was like a really important part of heavy music. But that album's so sick. It has like with the Gideon, it has a lot of hardcore influence. Got the like two steps and slams and like beat down parts. But then it goes into some stupid like groovy riffs and crazy breakdown. Like I just thought that album was so sick. And then obviously like came out either right after we put our album out or right before or whatever, around the same time was Singularity by Northlane.
Oh, yeah, that's an insane record.
I think that album is so sick. Obviously, like, I respect what they're doing now. I think, like, they're on the right progression for them, and I think, like, it's exactly where they want to be. But just me, personally, like, what really touched me was Singularity. Just because, like, it was, like, the mix of the heavy and the groove with like the absolute most atmospheric, like ethereal, like leads and clean guitar parts. I just thought that was such a crazy juxtaposition that I'd never heard before. The only thing that was close was like the first Woe Is Me record, and that's the first record I actually liked that had like singing in it. And
Numbers, right?
Yeah,
and
so
good.
That was like the conversion record for me when I like stopped being such a like dickhead. Yeah, that was like another thing where it was like heavy and the singing mixed with like those crazy leads and like tapping parts. I just thought that was such a sick record. I could go on all day about this stuff. But.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing that I think is really cool about the Woe Is Me record is that, and I tell this to frickin' everyone, I might have even talked to you about it, is that there's no chorus in the entire record.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that just blows my mind. When someone told me, I think it was Sean from Flippin', shout out Sean.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, like Tyler told me there's no chorus in the whole record. And I'm like, wait. And I'm like, holy crap, there is no chorus.
Yeah. It was really progressive in that sense. And I think that's something that like we bumped heads with at first when I met Tyler and we were doing Issues because I was so inspired by like how progressive that was, and he was so ready to do a chorus. He was like, I want to do a chorus. Like I want to write music with choruses and repeating parts.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to do like, to be honest, when I met Tyler, I was trying to do Numbers Part 2, like basically with my own spin on it. So that's how like me and AJ were writing. I mean, AJ obviously like really liked the Ghost Inside and stuff. At that point.
For sure.
So that's where he was like pulling from. But yeah, so that was kind of a funny little thing. It was like, cool, Tyler, let's work on this thing that you're good at. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
Oh, dude, yeah. I thought that was like vocally for him and lyrically, I just thought, to me, I honestly don't think he's topped it since. And that's just personal preference.
Right.
I just love that record, and it's one of my all-time faves. But obviously, the drums and whatnot could have been worked on a little better. Yeah. Like just constantly the entire record. But but in general, I don't know. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was it like going into the studio and, bouncing ideas with Tyler, and he's like, I want to start a beef with Woe Is Me, King Amarillo or whatever. Like, how is that?
Well, at first, like, I didn't care what he did because I wasn't in the band. So it wasn't representing me, really. I was just trying to, like, write and get my chops up and get some, like, royalties and just write a record. So it didn't really bother me. But then when I joined, I started getting more vocal about, like, the things that I thought, like, came off as, like, gimmicky or like, just... corny. But obviously I'm in a band with Tyler, and Michael and and saying I'm not like, this ain't the Ty solo project, so it has to be a democracy. So if there's something like Tyler's really passionate about that I don't really 100% like support, if I'm outvoted, like that's it. So and I've got to respect him and like what he wants to do in his opinion. So obviously, like with any band, there's like going to be like conflicting ideas and butting heads, but yeah, I guess I just had to like realize, what he was trying to accomplish, and he really wanted to be like he wanted to go. I was like, yeah, let's have pop influence and like have pop melodies. He wanted to be like a pop star in the band, which is cool, but that was like, sometimes he went like a little too far for me, like in that world.
Yeah.
And he brought that in, and I had to respect it because that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I just did like my parts or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it ended up working out. I mean, like we wrote some cool records, still writing stuff. So, but yeah, it's like, yeah.
In general, I want to talk about that too. Of course, we're finally getting there. This is a good transition. So the new record that you guys are writing, I mean, just could you tell us a little bit about the style it's going in or changes and whatnot? Obviously, Michael's not in the band anymore, and there's going to be fans saying blah 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 whatever. But what was the decision behind that, or how do you think that's going to influence the next record?
Well, I can't really speak too much on the decision with the Michael thing because that's totally like a band thing, and I'm not like in the band anymore.
Band, yeah.
So, that was their decision, and I just kind of like go with what they want to do.
Yeah.
But as far as like the music, like yeah, I think it's we're just trying to progress. Like, I think there was a lot of division during Headspace, like more than any other record, and I think that's why it came out the way it did. It kind of sounds like there's a huge like gap between like the music and the lyrics, or just like the vocals and like the music. I think there's like we just never got on the same page with that, and I think with this record, everybody's kind of like trying to like zero in and like zoom out and be like, okay, what is Issues? What are we trying to accomplish? How do we take all these things that we've started and done and like make it like the most refined thing that we can? And that means like the heavy parts from like EP. That means like our pop influence and like the like choruses and structures and things, but just make it like a badass, like taken seriously like record. And yeah, I don't know. I think like there's been a lot of exploration, but as far as like where it is at the moment, it really seems like there's like a thread between the songs, which is like something that I've never felt in an Issues record. It always felt like Issues records were just compilations of like crazy ideas that we had.
This song's crazy heavy, this song's crazy poppy.
Yeah, exactly. So this seems like we're just like trying to have like a thread, I guess. I keep saying we like I'm in the band, but
I mean, you're helping writing,
yeah,
so
writing, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you would say that like this is more equal parts, because I mean, even with Headspace, I felt like it was getting more equal. Like, because if you look at the self-titled, it was just like, this is a heavy song, this is a softer song, right. And then getting into Headspace, it was more like, okay, you have some more equal parts here. Like each song has got like some of what other parts or other songs have. So you'd say this record is even more so equal throughout.
I would say so. I would say, even if it's not like on a equalness of like something like heavy and light, it's more equal mood. You know what I mean? Like especially me, like I'm definitely in like when I write, I like definitely gravitate more towards somber stuff, I guess, and stuff that's like a little bit more heavy, like not heavy like heavy, but like a little bit more like emotionally heavy and that type of thing. So I think that's a mood that is carrying throughout the record. It's like it's a little bit more like on the, I guess, dark side, I guess. But I think that's what is going to make it cool and keep it cool.
For sure. So one thing I wanted to talk about was switching back to the EDM stuff. Can we talk about the name change from Scout to Lophiile? How exactly did that happen? And because this is kind of more so the beginning of your, we're just going back to the beginning of your departure, I guess, when you're starting EDM music. Is that what you would call it, EDM?
I mean, I'm definitely like pretty far away from the EDM thing.
What
now,
would you
I mean,
say?
I was with that when I first left Issues, but throughout the last couple of years, I've just been kind of like getting away from that. Not like trying to reject that label or whatever, like I'm too cool, but I'm just more influenced by other things. So I don't know. I guess you could just call it like electronic music.
Electronic, okay.
But yeah, so basically Scout was just already somebody. Like it's already like a couple producers in a band and like I can't copyright it. So they're just like, yeah, you should just try to find like a more like unique name. And I just thought of names for like 2 months and it was an awful experience. And that's the one that me and my manager liked the most. And I didn't really like anything that much, but I was just like, all right, this is the one that we like the most. And yeah, it's the thing that's dope about it is it's so easily Googleable because it's like
nobody else is.
nothing has ever had that name. So, but yeah.
What does it mean though exactly? Lophiile.
Oh, it's just the words low profile put into one word.
Okay.
Because that's something that I try to keep as a person.
For sure.
A low profile.
Yeah, I think for like, like just in general of like when I, think of like people that have like cool ass stories, I'm like always like Ty has a cool story, but you have like probably the most level head out of like anyone I know that has like such a cool story. Like you really do, like you still hang out with everyone that you used to hang out with. You're still the same person. I don't realize there's any difference from like when I first met you to now.
I think if I didn't like do that, I would be depressed and miserable. Cause like that's like the only way I can stay happy is just to like stay like close to my good friends and like doing stupid stuff that I like to do, like yo-yoing or like, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, like I just feel like that's the only way. I mean, it's just so corny to like have a glow up and then all of a sudden act like a dick. Like I've seen it so many times. It's like, dude, especially when it's like a Warped Tour person, because it's like, my dude, the shelf life for all of our bands is like 4 years.
Yeah,
like you're acting like the shit now, but in 2 years, no one's gonna care who you are, and then you're just gonna have this legacy of like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I just have no interest in doing that and ever being like that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about yo-yoing. I want to know how it all started because I know that you get we were talking about this like, what was it like? It was New Year's, right? Yeah, I was like, yeah, you don't just get like mildly into things. You're like obsessive.
Yeah, I'm super obsessive.
Yeah, so how did that all happen, the whole yo-yo thing?
Okay, so, well, I've always anything that like has like something you can do tricks on, I've always like tried to do it. I've never got like amazing at anything. I guess the best thing I ever got was like rollerblading.
Yeah.
But then like rollerblading just absolutely died. I mean, it was already dead, but it was already dead by the time I got into it. But it's like even deader than dead now.
I think it'll come back though. I really do.
Dude, we'll see. I mean, if it does, I'll be shocked. But yeah, it could. But I spent a long time getting good at rollerblading, and like, but when you like skate, you can get hurt, and plus, I just don't like. I don't know. I'm just sick of getting spit at the skate park. So I just like kind of hung the rollerblades up. And, I was like getting into like snowboarding a lot more and learning tricks on that and like other stuff. But yo-yoing, like I had a yo-yo when I was a kid, but I never really like could do anything crazy on it. But then like I spent 2 months in London last year, last March actually. So a year this month, right? Is it March?
Yeah.
And we just walked into a toy shop and they had yo-yos. I was like, oh, I remember these. And we like were just doing them. And they were they're called unresponsive yo-yos, so they don't come up when you like yank.
Oh, okay.
And when I was a kid, I never like saw that. I just had the ones that came up. And, and all these tricks I was trying to learn, I was like, man, this doesn't sleep long enough. And it just blew my mind that this was sleeping for like 5 minutes. I was like, oh, so this is how you do all the tricks. So, as a 26-year-old, I bought the yo-yo. Me and Marco did. We both bought yo-yos, and we just like started learning tricks. And it was like, it became a thing. Like, we'd learn a trick at night and then come to the studio the next day to work, and we'd like try to have like a new trick. And I just like learned a trick and another trick and another trick, and I just was like, dude, I can't stop doing this. And it's just like, it's so addicting because you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And it just satisfies that part of my brain that I had when I was rollerblading, where you like try like a trick and like try to get it. And, I was watching videos of like dudes like killing it. Also, I like anything that you can collect, and you can collect yo-yos. I don't know. It's just like the dumbest thing, but I love it so much. It just like really takes the stress off. Like music can really like mess with you, man. It can really like eat your soul up. Just like you get into your head and like get stressed and like feel some type of way. But like it's just nice to have like something so stupid and dumb that like you can just switch off. And I think for most people like in the scene, it's like video games.
Yeah, for sure. Fortnite right now.
Yeah,
for
Fortnite.
Sure.
And like, Josh, AJ, and Sky are huge gamers, and they've always done that. And I've always liked it and like gotten kind of good at certain games or gotten into games for a second, but I can just never keep up with it because I don't know. I just don't like looking at a screen. And
when you're already looking at a screen.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't. And they kind of stress me out sometimes. So it's just not, to me, it's just never been a switch off thing.
Yeah.
But so yo-yoing is kind of like my like video game.
What's like the most expensive yo-yo you have? Have you gotten deep into it yet?
Yeah, so I bought it used, so I didn't buy it for this, but I have this thing called an Igloo, and I think those new are like $170.
Damn.
But I bought it off Reddit, so it was like, it's still expensive. It's like probably like $90.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, they sell stuff on Reddit?
Well, there's a yo-yo Reddit.
I didn't know that.
There's a yo-yo Reddit, and they have like a buy sell trade feed or whatever, and I've like sold stuff on there, bought stuff on there. There was like a Secret Santa this year, so I like
That's so
bought
dope.
some random person a yo-yo, and I got a yo-yo from some random person.
That's so sick. Is there like a amount cap? Where
Yeah,
you're,
well,
not
it's
supposed to
just
spend?
like at least spend $50.
Oh dang!
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty good.
Yeah, because that's like $50 is like that's when you get into like a nice like yo-yo.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like anything lower is kind of like either like beginner or like cheap or whatever. But another thing that's cool or addicting or whatever that like attracted me to the whole thing is everyone's just so ridiculously nice.
Really?
Like, yeah, and it's just so nice to be around people that aren't dicks. Like after like being in the Warped Tour scene for so long and like everyone's just such a dick. Like I don't mean to talk. I mean, obviously there's friends. I don't mean to talk like I sound so jaded, like a road dog. Like but I just spent so much time with like people that like have like egos and like it's just nice to like be a part of like some community where like people have like regular jobs and they get together and do this weird thing and like have fun and no one's an asshole. I don't know.
Yeah. Are there any like have you met like a famous like someone that's really good that like and they don't have egos either? Like
no. I mean,
that's awesome.
Because everyone's just like really like they just want to get people into the sport and you're not going to do that by like
that's cool.
acting too cool. And at the end of the day, like you're yo-yo, so it's like why? Like, are you going to really act that cool? But. Yeah, so I was just at this competition in Seattle, and I met the like world champion guy, and he like gave me a yo-yo and gave my girlfriend a yo-yo, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's sick, dude. So you didn't compete though, right? How far off do you think you are from competing?
I feel like most people start at like 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And this month is like 1 year for me.
So you got like 2 more.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm going to compete.
You don't think so?
I know, because I just... well, for a few reasons. Like, A, I just do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, I like that... When you compete, you're like... You have to like practice, and you're like stressed out. And it's like you get up... And so I just want to like... My goal is to get good... enough to do like really cool videos in cool places. Like I want to do like videos on like a top of a mountain or something.
Yeah.
And like travel and like just do like, do it on the Eiffel Tower or something.
Yeah, that's sick.
That's what I want to do. But and then also with competitions, like it's very specific style of yo-yoing. Like they judge you on how many times you like hit the string and like do so tricks are very specific. Like to like win, you have to do very specific tricks and
it's more mental stress than it's worth. I guess.
Exactly. I'd just rather just chill out and I don't know. It's just kind of like a really relaxing thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm 27, I'm definitely like the oldest yo-yo. I mean, those older people, but most people that get into it are like 13.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, like, what is the average, your average yo-yo, like, what are they like?
Well, kids usually get into it when they're like 9, 10,
okay,
or 12. And then people start like competing and get really good and like their peak of their like yo-yoing or whatever is usually like 17, 18, 19.
Okay.
And then they're usually on to like other things in life, but they still like show up. when they're my age.
Yeah.
And it's funny like being my age and be like, "What's up, guys? I'm new." Like doing it, but I don't know. I secretly think I always feel like they all secretly think I'm like super weird, but I don't know. I just like doing it.
Like whatever.
Yeah, it's all good.
So one thing I want to talk about. So I guess we're a little off topic, but in regards to Warped Tour,
Yeah.
And it ending, how do you think that will affect the music industry, like heavy music specifically?
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, do you think like so because right now I see like a polar, like I see two polar opposite ways, like it's going like Knocked Loose and then Movements. Like Movements is, you know, just like more indie on the indie side of things, less barely any screaming at all, and then you have Knocked Loose who's just like straight pissed, like punch your family member in the face.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, I think Warped Tour ending like isn't gonna affect the heavy community that much because I feel like the Warped Tour ending is a product of like not as many people like being into that type of stuff. So I think heavy music is like the people that like it are still going to like go to like those shows and support those bands. But I think yeah, I honestly think it's hard to say. It's funny because like the indie thing's so popular right now. Like I think like who really like started that wave was Turnover because they like really did a good record doing that. And you know I had a huge indie phase before like I moved to LA and anytime like a heavy band would try to do indie music, I always think it was so corny because they didn't like do it right, and they don't actually listen to indie bands. They're just like trying to be cool. But Turnover to me sounded like okay, that's legitimately like a dope record, and it sounds like legitimately like that like style, and so that made it cool to do that, which is cool. And I think that is like you know, I mean, it's a resurgence because that sound already happened, kind of. But it's a cool resurgence. I don't know if that's the right word. But I think as far as like the heavy side, yeah, I mean, just in general right now with the oversaturation of music, I think the future is just purity. Like the like trendy, like, you know, electronic breaks and like metalcore like breakdowns or whatever is done with because, you know, that was just like gimmicky and stuff. And like I think you know, people gravitate towards like culture and like genuineness. I don't know what the word is. At the moment, so I think those bands are the ones that are the future, and they're the ones that are really going to make a difference. I think, like, in my personal opinion, like the most like futuristic band to me right now is Code Orange, and like Turnstile. And I know that's more like on the like hardcore type of things, but I mean it's really metal. Like to be honest, like hardcore, like you know they call themselves like hardcore, but it's really metal, historically speaking. But like whatever you want to call it, heavy music, because they're just so pure and they have a lot of influences and they can't really be pigeonholed, but it always comes down to like rawness, which I think is like super cool. And you know they're not relying on production. They're relying on like pure songwriting and just like emotion. And I think that's what's like the wave. And I think in general, like when you're 13, when you were 13 in 2006, you go to Warped Tour. When you're 13 in 2018, you go to Coachella. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
So it's just the swing of things at the moment. And I think eventually it'll swing back. And like another Warped Tour like thing will happen, and that type of stuff will be big again, but it won't look anything like it did in 2005. It'll look completely different with these new weird bands of new genres that have like the spirit of Warped Tour. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling.
One artist I think that encompasses exactly what you're saying is Nothing Nowhere. Have you gotten the chance to listen to him?
I haven't.
He's like a...
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like old school emo mixed with trap.
Yeah. That's actually really cool. Some of that stuff is super cool.
Yeah, and and I think it was so sick that he had Dashboard on one of his songs.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that was dope.
You like, you made people guess, but then you're like, nah, I'm just letting you know it's definitely like old school emo with rap,
Yeah, and I've heard that kind of bubbling a little bit, like with the Lil Peep.
Yeah, for sure.
And I remember T-Mills was on that way long ago because I engineered him in like 2012 or 2013 when I was working at Atlantic, and he was writing a lot of that type of stuff, but like there wasn't like really a time for it.
Yeah, it wasn't the wave yet.
But yeah, he would like get a beat and he was like, yeah, I want to do some like Dashboard stuff. And he would like write that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's a cool mix. But it's cool that like somebody's really honing in on that and like really like developing that sound, because that Nothing Nowhere guy, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I heard, I think I heard the one with Dashboard. I was like, okay, this is sick, because you're actually legitimately doing this well. It's like kind of a crazy like, why would this ever work? But you're actually like really like thinking this out and like doing this well.
Yeah, and even like, because what a lot of people could compare him to is almost like that creepy, like moody stuff that 21 Pilots made, like with Heathens, I guess. Not more so the rest of their stuff that's like more like reggae pop, but like Heathens, that it's like this creepy kind of like, something like that.
Yeah, that's by far my favorite 21 Pilots song.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that too. We're just like, we don't really like love 21 Pilots, but Heathens is a dope song for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I just want to talk about is pretty much the last topic is like, where do you see yourself going within music? We kind of talked about in the beginning, but really like, what do you prefer doing? Like if you were to have an ideal like plate handed to you, like right now, would it be performing in front of large crowds with your music, or would it be being in the studio just working with the best artists in the world?
Yeah. Honestly, I know it sounds ridiculous, but kind of a bit of both. I mean, I look at people like Skrillex who do that. Like
for sure.
That's their life, is they work with the dopest artists in the world in the studio, and then they go like play amazing shows. I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I want to be like a Zedd or a Skrillex type of model where I'm like just a DJ with like crazy like lights. I don't think like that's like the end goal. I'm doing that a lot right now, just like at shows, which is sick. But I don't think that's like where I want to end up. But basically, just to rewind what I'm doing right now. So I'm in this new project, a new band actually called Radiant Children, and it's with two guys from London, or a guy and a girl from London. And it's more, I hate like describing it, because it's definitely like, it's like the same spirit as Issues. It's like tons of different influences, but it's like we're pulling from like old soul records, like new hip hop stuff. Like indie stuff. So it's really eclectic. It's like, we have Fabian, she's the singer and she's amazing, an amazing vocalist. And, she does everything, from rap to, I'm just making it sound so corny, but you just have to listen to it. You have to listen to it. But it's coming out in like April, May-ish.
Okay.
And I think that's going to like take up like most of my time. Okay. And I really believe, like, to put it frankly, I really believe in the project. I think it could be like something like crazy.
The next big thing.
Yeah, well.
Or wave.
We'll see. But I honestly think it could like make some waves.
Honestly, that's cool.
And it could not, because like, the world may not be like with it, but it's definitely the best thing that I've ever like been a part of. Like, quality wise. So we'll see how that goes. And I'll be playing drums in it, which is sick. We have an EP done and stuff, so that's cool. And then, I'm working on a Lophiile EP as well. And it's like kind of going to be my statement of where I'm at now, where it's like a little bit away from the EDM thing and more just like on some like experimental hip hop, like electronic stuff. But we'll see how that goes as well. But those are like the two things I'm like really focusing on. It's like the Lophiile project and like the EP and the Radiant Children. And I think eventually I would just love, like, I'd love to just have this balance of like Radiant Children playing shows, a Lophiile playing shows with a band, like not DJing, but like, cool. like a band. And then like just like working with like crazy artists in the studio. I'd love to have that life. And I think the way everything is like setting up this year, I think like I'm finally feeling like I might be on track to get there. So,
awesome.
We'll see.
So would you say you're like kind of inspired by people like Chance the Rapper who have like kind of these like really theatrical live performances with like bands, vocalists, like he's brought a choir on stage before. Like, would you say that's somewhat in the same vein of like what you aspire to be like, or?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great example of like what would be sick. I think with Lophiile stuff, it should feel like a jam. It should feel like just like a house party, like jam, and like the band's killing it, and people are jumping off stage and stuff. I don't know, just like a fun time. I don't want to be like too like I don't want to like be like where it's like too serious and it's like, you know, go to these like EDM shows. They're like all the lights are down and it's like the one light on this guy. And he's just like up there with his CDJs and everybody's like, oh my God, I'm rolling. You know, it's just I don't know. It's definitely whatever I want to do with Lophiile hasn't been done yet, so that's why I don't know really what it is.
Okay.
It's not. There's no like one person that's like really done it. I'm trying to like carve that little wave out.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna ask that. Yeah. Like, is there an artist that has that similar vibe? I guess not. So.
Yeah, not really. I'm trying to think. Yeah, not really. So
that's awesome though. Pave the way, man.
Well, we'll see. I have to like make the groundwork. You know, I've put out a lot of music as Lophiile, but nothing's really been like my like statement yet. So I'm just like, that's what I'm working on at the moment. That's what the mission plan for the EP is like, just to get it. Where it's like, okay, this is me, and then like build off of that.
All right. So Radiant Children, you're saying April, May?
April, May.
May.
It's feeling like May now, just because everything takes so long. So like probably like May-ish.
All right, awesome. Well, guys, make sure to be on the lookout for that. Follow Ty on Twitter at Lophiile. And thanks for having me, man. Of course.
Thank you, bro.
Good chatting. All right, peace out.
Sick.
Later, guys.